What's up, gamers? It is I, the People's Machine, back at you with another edition of the Gaming Round Table. Of course, the last one I did was way back in August. It's been a little bit different. Things have happened in a while. I haven't made any videos, and it seems some time. Thank God that our fearless leader, Posthuman Guy, has been making a bunch of videos and streaming stuff. It's something I need to get back into. My beautiful fiance, she came down with COVID recently, and then I got it pretty much the day after. She pretty much was almost pretty much out of the woods and well, so I was down and out with that for a little bit, so I missed some work and different things. And then we spent some time with the grandparents, and they now making their way back home to Florida, and so it's just, like I said, busy time and different things going on. So really want to apologize that I haven't been making much or doing much, and to be perfectly honest with you, some of it is just because I don't really have a whole lot to talk about, and playing wise, I've been kind of like bouncing back and forth between games and not sure. Some of them I've been like meh about, and others I've been kind of been playing a lot of EDF and Cyberpunk lately, and I really should be making some stuff. So. But thankfully, Posthuman Guy, our fearless leader and founder of Unpaid Gamers, has been taking up the slack on that end for my lazy butt. But anyway, today's episode is also brought to you by our Unpaid Gamers at YouTube.com, also occasionally streaming to Twitch. Please check out past videos of the man, the myth, the Apex Legend Bandloss. His videos are still up there, even though I don't believe that he is doing anything right now. And Posthuman Guy has been pretty busy the last few weeks or whatever, doing different things. And speaking of which, our industrious and most illustrious leader of Unpaid Gamers is here tonight. John, welcome back to Table Talk.
Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey man, so right off the bat, I just mention that I have been playing Earth Defense Force. My fiance and myself and her sister, we've been playing a little bit of Dead by Daylight too. We've been having a lot of fun doing that, and that's been fun.
Play a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's been really fun. The game with the different, just us kind of trying to work together and have fun, and we've had some success. And the Resident Evil stuff's out with Wesker and Ada Wong and different things, and Desiree, my fiance, she's really good. She's great at the cat and mouse stuff, and I've watched her not once but on 3 occasions, man, like literally be down and crawl her way outside the door. So it's pretty amazing. So it's pretty something else. She's done really good. She's prestiged a couple times, so it's like that's kind of her game, and she's good at it. And because of her and Destiny, who plays a lot, we've had a lot more success than we've had failure, which has been great. So we've been having fun doing that, and I've been playing Cyberpunk just because the last update I checked out, and then I got into it while I was sick with COVID. I think I played it for 3 days straight and had to play back through it from the beginning, and didn't play any story missions after Jackie dies. And spoiler alert, but everybody should know that by now. I just mainly did a bunch of rando stuff and leveled up and just kind of did all. It's really, the last update was great. And getting back into EDF, just playing some Earth Defense Force because 6 is right around the corner. And I checked out some vids on that today on YouTube, and EDF 6 is looking pretty spectacular, like what they've added and what they're doing with it. So it's been out in Japan for a little bit, so I'm hoping to see it maybe this year. It's also going to be it's also going to be on PS5 and the new Xbox as well, so people are going to be able to play the next gen. Although people have said that even on the next gen, don't expect, like, because it's EDF. You're not going to get some
I would
grandiose.
expect just a better frame rate, probably.
Yeah.
And it's never really been a bad looking game. Like I went back, and played some of those earlier ones, and like I remember back then thinking, well, this ain't much to look at, but it's really fun. But really, if you go back and look at it now, like it still doesn't even look that bad. Like it was just very basic. Is really
Well,
like the buildings. There's not a lot of detail and stuff, but like they've improved the draw distance and of course the frame rate, and it does look a little better now.
Yeah.
But like even those early ones were good. And I did
Yeah.
some leisure plays of that. Was it 2077? Is that?
Well, there's 2017, which was the original.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, 2017.
On 360. Well, not the original, but the one that came. Yeah, that kind of cemented. Like first, kind of went to the West. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I did some leisure play of that one actually for at least a couple hours. So
nice.
Anybody can go check that out.
That's great. What have you been like? What is most recently you have been playing, just to kind of let our audience know what you've been into?
Yeah, so obviously, like you talked about, you're absent for a little bit. So I started. Well, I've been continuing my leisure play stuff, and then I started doing this car thoughts segment. So,
yes, which are really, really cool, by the way. I dig it.
Yeah, and I'll get into when I'm playing and stuff, I guess, here in a second. But like I talked about on there, I just end up driving a lot with work, oftentimes, and even if it's not like big long trips, which I do frequently make. A lot of my day-to-day travels are like half an hour or so. And that's like frequently throughout the day. So I spend so much time, and it's like time to just free think or whatever. And I'm oftentimes listening to podcasts or just music or whatever. But I thought that was a kind of a cool idea to talk about stuff. So I've been like talking about both topics and kind of what I've been playing on there. So,
okay, great.
And then, like, I've still been doing the leisure plays, and then sometimes because I don't really get into the reviews or talk while I'm doing the leisure play. So I'll play, just do straight gameplay with that. And if it's something new, I'll go back on the car thoughts and do like impressions of it or whatever.
Okay.
About it and stuff. So it's been kind of coinciding. So I just did one today, actually. Speaking of, and that's really my roundabout way of getting to that. But I played through a couple more FMV games.
Okay, yeah.
Most recently, and it was I'll talk about it on there. I don't know if I get the name right, but it's like Who Pressed Mute on Uncle Marcus?
Yeah, no, no, I saw that. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, which is really cool, by the way. Now, really cool with like the FMV goggles that I wear, right? Because I love all those games. So if you're not into them, don't even bother. But I think it's cool for what it is and for that style of game. And the acting's not terrible. Like, it's kind of campy and over the top at parts and stuff. But it's fun, and the gameplay is pretty good. So, like I talk about on my leisure play, so without really giving too much of the story away, it's basically like a kind of a murder mystery.
Okay, yeah.
Somebody's been poisoned, and your job is to basically find out who did it, and there's a couple of parts to that too.
Okay.
So it's all this like dysfunctional family. But they kind of get them on like this like Skype meeting or something, and they do these like quizzes with each other. So it's multiple rounds, and then like you team up with a family member of your choosing usually. So like during each of these rounds, you're talking to them, and then you have opportunities to try to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
And you're trying to piece together the puzzles and gather clues to solve.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
And then, it's really cool. It's got David Wallace from The Office in it. He's one of the characters.
Okay.
But it's really set up like how those games like you can play multiple times usually, and it turns out differently.
Yeah.
Well, this one it's set up to like where you have to play it multiple times. Like there's no way you're gonna get anywhere after one playthrough. Like it's just not.
Yeah.
But it's pretty enjoyable. So I played through that, and then I also played I Saw Black Clouds finally.
I have seen that on the PS4 store. Yes.
Yeah, and at least you played both of those, so anybody can check those out. Or my car thoughts about it as well, and that's just more like a basic interactive movie.
Gotcha.
There's a lot less gameplay. You're just making choices, and I wasn't as impressed with that one, but it's all right. You know, it's still added to my collection.
Yeah, I don't think it was very expensive to begin with, and it has been on sale a couple
No.
times. Yeah.
Yeah, most of them at launch they're $10 to $15,
Yeah, they're not very expensive, yeah. Yeah.
and then when they go on sale, they're just 3, 4, 5, 2, whatever.
Yeah.
Super.
Typically,
And
yeah.
like I think in the store right now, actually, there is a Whales interactive bundle. I think
Yes, there is.
something like interactive, and it's a few dollars, and it comes with a bunch of them. So
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
now again, like I'm just a long time fan of those. Always have been since Windows 95 days.
Yeah.
And so I always get them, and I always enjoy them, no matter really how good they are.
I've always wondered if with the age of the retro gaming and different things come out, and we've seen some Sega CD stuff, like where's our X-Files game? Right?
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know. It's one of the
I'm,
best ones ever.
yeah, maybe because it's a rights thing and whatever, but I'm shocked, right? Like they haven't done that, right? So
Yeah, I mean, it's Fox, which is I guess now owned by Disney,
yeah, they are.
and they play nice with all the systems. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I don't see why not. Now, but wasn't it? Let's see, who made it though?
That I couldn't tell you. It's been years ago.
It was Fox, but it was. I'll have to dig it out because I have both the PS1 version of that and the computer version of it. the Windows
Yeah.
version.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to look it up and see. But yeah, I actually started playing that on the PS Mini.
Oh, nice.
It doesn't come with it, by the way. All my stuff like that's modded.
Yeah, of course.
But,
Yeah.
but I just have a USB stick that I can put ISOs on and put it in,
Yeah.
and I can play any of those.
Oh, nice,
And,
nice.
Start going back and playing through it.
Hmm.
I guess it's been a little bit now,
I know. Nice.
but I've been streaming some Last of Us Part 1. What else did I do walkthrough on? I forget now, but that's like what I've been mostly trying to do now, is do a lot more just full walkthroughs and stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Or not really walkthroughs, but like playthroughs.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Now, I know you were talking to me the other night, a couple nights ago, whatever, and you were talking about the new Madden, and I want to get into Madden for just a little bit, because I know, you pretty much consistently buy it, and I don't. But it's not because I don't love football games. It's because I know in the last several entries, various sites and stuff have pointed out on YouTube, like asset reflipping and like things that they're doing, and it's very geared towards microtransactions, and like the sideline stuff is terrible, and like there's a lot of negativity around this game. And basically them saying, look at this new pass feature. Well, it's not new if it was in the game 4 years ago. And they do a lot of things. You have it. And I just got the internet connection quality is currently not sufficient to broadcast gameplay. So I don't know if it says we're still broadcasting. So hopefully it could be a little messed up. Yeah. I am in my living room. And I am on Wi-Fi, and I'm not in the bedroom where I'm closer to the router, since I'm not hardwired no more. And I am on Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Yeah.
You're
Okay,
probably
good. Good.
It might have a, sometimes when you're doing like a round table, there's been a couple of times where it's got real fuzzy.
Okay.
And then like it comes back. So
Okay.
it might
Okay.
just be dealing with
All
that.
right. Well, that's probably what it is. And like I said, I'm in the living room, so I'm not
We'll go with
directly.
this.
Yeah. But anyway, so going back to the Madden 23 stuff. So you played it, and I don't know if you played 22 or 20, if you got the other ones, but do you feel like that with this year's Madden, and there has been not the best of press from a lot of YouTubers on it. And some people like it. I mean, how do you think that it's still another EA lazy cash grab? Them touting features that they took out and then put back in as new. Animation is still kind of wonky. Do you feel like the $60 or even $70 price point for your new systems, do you feel like it's justified, or do you feel that EA just was like, just phoned it in like what they typically do?
Well, okay, so here's the thing. So, yeah, now I've consistently played Madden throughout the years. Back in the heyday, Super Nintendo, all that stuff, I was playing them pretty regular, but really spotty, though. It wasn't like every new one, past a certain point, because I didn't have any money. I was a kid.
Yeah.
But, every now and again, get the new one, and I don't really keep track of which ones I've had over the years. At a certain point, though, around Xbox time, some of that stuff, I was getting it every year. And, it got to be around, like, 2002 or something. That's about when me and you were, like you got that one too, I believe.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah.
And we determined back then that Madden is really best when you skip a couple of years.
Yes.
Right?
That's true.
So, I've really kind of held that bargain up, and I play him a lot less now than what I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, like, this is the first new one I bought for myself. In quite a few years.
Okay.
Now, I've went back and got some of the others while they were cheap and on sale and stuff for various reasons. Mostly because, I really like the TV show Friday Night Lights that was on for a while.
Yeah.
And they did a story mode, and I think like one of the actors is in it or something. And they kind of did this whole like story thing.
Yes.
So like I wanted to check that out, and so like I got it, and I forget why I ended up with some of these others. I think just for those story modes, just to play them. But, so, I haven't really sat down and gave one like a live play in a few years, for sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure really what year that I was playing, but at the absolute latest, like Madden 20, right? So we're like 3 down the road.
Okay.
I like it, really, but I like it for like Madden's sake, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's nothing, these complaints. My problem is with the complaints, really, not Madden itself. Like, it's the same story. It's the same thing that's been going on forever with Madden. There's no surprises here. So, like, if you choose to get it every year and complain about it, you're kind of a dumbass.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
that makes sense.
We all know what to expect. We know that it's going to be mostly a roster update. It's going to tout some new feature or some old feature they're bringing back.
Yeah.
It probably has a different story mode. And, this holds true with most major sports games, by the way, not just Madden.
Yeah, it's true.
2K, I think, does a better job at a sports presentation.
Yeah.
And really probably a more solid gameplay, and that makes some pretty big improvements and introductions sometimes, but it's largely the same for multiple years in a row as well.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest problem is it's an annual release.
Yeah.
But, how are you going to navigate a game in an ever-changing sports environment where rosters and players are traded all the time without doing an annual release?
Yeah.
You can do roster updates, I suppose, throughout the season, or, I don't know. It's a tricky thing, right? Like, you can't expect people to work for free.
No, this is true. I just
don't
was,
know.
yeah.
It has a lot of the same complaints, though, and, I'll wrap it up here in a second, but,
really.
The sidelines have always sucked. The presentation's been largely unchanged year after year. They'll take out features, re-add them. Like, one year it's a defense's game, one year it's an offense's game. You'll have, like, hit stick 5.0 and shit now,
Yeah. You're like...
And they'll introduce something really weird and call. I did go back and watch your Angry Joe thing.
Yeah.
And there's some valid points there. Now, I personally don't like him anyway. Not for any fault of his. He's doing his thing. It's just not my style.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, if you go back and look at his other previous, I mean, he makes a review of it every year. He buys it every year with the expectation that it will be different or better. And I'll fault him for the simple fact that why do you keep thinking they're going to do anything different?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It's the same, like why? I will say, like I've seen before, like his rant video, he sat down and he played it a good length of time, and I do like that it's really giving it a full kind of thing. But like Madden's gonna be Madden, we all know, there's certainly things that can be done better, but I don't know. We shouldn't be surprised anymore.
Well, see, I think me and you have discussed, and I have in previous videos, and I've always been, really against games being hyped, because the expectation versus reality, And so, it's kind of like, go back to No Man's Sky's ridiculous hype, and what it came out as. Now the game is brilliant. It's a brilliant space MMO, so to speak, with all those elements. It wasn't 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So, but when you hype a game, or when you, and like you said with the annual releases, the same thing could be said about Call of Duty, and the same thing could be said about any game that comes out every 10 to 11 months. There's no time for any real developer to say, okay, let's just tear it all apart and rebuild it. You're not going to have time. You just don't.
Now, so one thing to reinforce that, which is also kind of my counter argument in a way. What you got to realize, with Madden, right? These major games, it's multi-year development cycles, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So essentially all they're doing is they're working on stuff these multiple years, and they're just kind of giving you where the game's at every year in a way. You can look at it that way.
You can, yeah.
And whether you choose to buy it during that year or not is really on you. However, you can look at this game versus 10 years ago, it's pretty the same,
Yeah, true. I mean, well,
so that's a shitty thing. Now, me as a casual Madden player, not playing it every year, jumping in every few years, playing this new one, it feels really good. I like it. It's got all the new players I want. As I'm currently watching the NFL season,
yeah, exactly.
There.
Yeah,
it looks good. It's the first one I got on the PS5. So I'm enjoying it. It's cool. It's fine price point for me. Whatever. All that's out of the beholder kind of thing. Anyway, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I do, however, hate this ultimate team stuff in all of these sports games. I hate it. And
like the MUT cards and the FUT cards and the...
And that shit, yeah.
And the sad part is that it was established 2 years ago that the MUT mode in Madden makes a little over $800 million a year for EA.
Yeah.
And then you buy a bunch of cards, and then the next year you can't carry anything over that's worthless. And now you're not playing that game, so you just spent money for nothing. But the fact that they make nearly $1 billion off of that mode makes me think Madden should either be a $20 game or just free to play at that point. Because they make more money off the MUT stuff versus the overall sales of the game. Right? Yeah. But EA's not like... But the problem is EA doesn't want some of your money. They want all of your money. So...
Yeah. Now, they've been notoriously greedy for all of 30 years now.
Yeah, pretty much.
So
yeah.
That's really no surprise either, right?
No, it's not.
Now, I do like the concept behind these Ultimate. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes I go in and I look at it, and it's like, maybe I'll give one of these a try. And I start, and I'm like, yeah, forget this. I don't like this.
Yeah.
Part of that, I feel, is my fault because I just don't have the time to dig into a mode of that level.
Yes.
You know, and like I don't even really have time to do fantasy football to do it justice.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it, but that's just not for me. So maybe I'm just missing something with the Ultimate Team. But I would
possibly
like to see them break it away.
Yeah.
It be its own title, and then we just do Madden.
That would be nice. That would just separate the two. Like the closest that I personally get to fantasy football is when I play Blood Bowl 2 with fantasy characters. So that's about the closest that I'm going to get. That or Mutant Football League, which is actually pretty fun too. If you've never played that for an arcade style football, then the commentator is done by the guy who used to do Blitz. So that's pretty neat. I don't know if you own that game. That's actually pretty fun. It's a pretty fun game. I mean, if you want that. And I know this, not this year, but next year, one of the companies is coming out with an NFL game that's arcade style because they were allowed to make it because the contract EA has with NFL, it's strictly simulation. So everything else is fair game. So that's coming out. I don't remember who's making it, but I know that's coming. And so that's going to be interesting for them to do. So it might be maybe not a Blitz style game, but it might be more closer to like an NFL Street. I don't know if you remember that game, but
yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah, that was kind of an arcadey style, you know. I tell you, football game. What I would love to see come back, and I know that they're not doing it, but I'd love to see like the college come back, like NCAA. Would be nice.
They are doing it. Actually.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yeah. But there's a thing about that. So, okay, and I just went down this road, right? So
yeah.
I've always liked football, but I'm not a hardcore sports guy.
Yeah.
But every now and again, like every random year, I'll really watch a sport, and usually it's NFL or NBA.
Yeah.
So this year I've decided to really watch a lot of football. So I'm watching actually both NCAA and NFL.
Okay.
So I'm keeping up a lot more with that. Game-wise, though, the last NCAA was NCAA Football 14.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, yeah.
Yeah, it was. And it coincides with Madden 25. That tells you how old that is.
Yeah.
So, and it stopped because they have these college players in there and they weren't compensating them.
Yes.
Right.
Which they're not supposed to be allowed to be compensated.
Yeah. Now though, and maybe this part I'm not too completely sure on, but I think that's changed now to where they can see some compensation or something.
It's I think what I read was it's like some of it is future compensation, like they go pro so they can get some kickback, but I've also heard some of the schools are saying that's fine, but X percentage is donated to the school.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know.
I mean, but I've read a lot of different things, so I could be way off base. It's just that's more of a speculative thing.
In that space, something's changed.
Yeah.
And they are actually starting to work on a new NCAA football game. However, well, okay, I don't know who's doing it. First off, it might be EA. I don't know. And they have to.
I kind of hope they're not doing it.
Stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look it up and see. One thing I don't like about it though is they have to. It's like, like the players' alliances and stuff they have.
Yes.
Is something equivalent to that, and it can only feature stuff within that. So, for example, like at this point, at least, like Kentucky can't be part of it.
Oh, I see.
Because they're not part of that alliance. So
I see. So it's got to be. It's kind of like
be a lot of people, a lot of things missing when they do it.
Kind of like NFL, AFL. When AFL was a thing. How they had different You know, East
Well, it's more
Conference.
of like a
No,
division.
yeah, but
It's more of a
it's
division.
yeah.
I think it's more about like the Players Alliance and stuff.
I see.
Like, you know, because if you look at like Legends, right? You think of
Yeah.
like when you play the basketball games, the football games, and they feature legends. They
Yes.
have to go through the National Players Alliance and shit like that, whatever
Yeah.
it's called.
Uh-huh.
It's like something like that, I think. But it's getting into an area that I don't know a lot about, so I don't. But it's something like that. They are doing one, but I feel like it's going to be limited unless they work out some stuff.
Yeah, because if you start mixing teams, and a lot of the NCAA teams, like if I was like a native of California, I would. Who gives a fuck if Kentucky's in it? As long as UCLA's in it, right?
Yeah,
But if you,
yeah, yeah.
but that's going to be like someone going like, "What? I can't play as U of L or Kentucky? Fuck that game." No, if they're from, you know what I mean? And that's what
the
would.
thing, like,
Yeah.
because there's a zillion freaking college teams. So,
That's what I mean. Yeah. So.
us being in Kentucky, you know, I care about UK being in there. I don't know what that means for U of L. But you know, those local teams like that,
No,
there's an issue.
because some of that could be
Maybe
support.
they'll sort it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean that game might be a year off. So, you know, for all we know. So, hopefully they'll shore that.
Actually track down a copy of that NCAA 14.
Oh, nice. Well,
And the cool thing that I always thought was neat about that, I never got into it back in the day because I didn't care much before college.
mm,
But you know, it's kind of cool to see those teams represented and stuff now.
yeah,
But one cool thing that I always liked about them is you could export stuff into Madden.
yeah,
Like, you know, like your draft class and stuff.
yeah.
Like,
That's neat.
if you play like as a character throughout the years, you could bring them into Madden.
Yeah,
continue their
yeah.
pro
That's
career.
pretty neat. That's pretty neat.
Uh,
The reason I was asking you about Madden is only because, you know, I have no intentions of buying it, but
yeah.
I know that you will give an honest, like, shake at it. You're not going to be like, oh, I buy it every year in this game and blah, blah, blah. You're not going to just shit on it either. You'll give it, like, your fair chance to shake. And like I said, you don't buy it every year. So if you haven't played one in 3 years, it's going to be good. But if you buy it every year, like you said, that annual release, and then people who buy it every year and are literally, I mean, I know it's not the true definition of insanity, but it's like doing the same shit over and over again. And, I mean, come on, like, and expecting a different
It's gonna
outcome.
be Madden.
Yeah, I mean, there's every time. So why do you think it's going to be any different? So, I don't know. I feel like
NFL 2K. What is it?
no, yeah. The reason that I had talked to you about looking at Maximum Football, which can't use NFL license, but like the latest game
Okay,
in the
hold on.
series.
Hold on,
Yeah.
before you go to that, one more
Yeah.
thing about Madden before we branch off to the other stuff. So my big reason for giving it a look in the first place was because it featured John Madden.
Mhm.
Obviously.
Yes.
'Cause, you know, all those old games back in the day, he was on the cover of all of them. It was
Pretty much
heavily
up until a
featured,
point. Yeah.
The commentary, and then he did commentary all the way up until 9, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
And 2009 or whatever, and then they started taking him out. So like since his death, obviously they kind of had this. They call it a tribute. Now, you know, a lot of people shit on that and stuff, and it's not very significant, and it's not. But it's a cool thing, I think, and that's what really initially drew me there. Is I thought it was a cool thing, and I wanted to check that out.
Yeah.
You know, as an old man player, you know, it's just he's supposed to be in there. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And I know
So
that
anyway.
they were saying that they didn't do a whole lot with him and blah, 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 blah. But what we may not know, and this is pure speculation, Madden's got a family. They have control of his estate, so they could have been like, well, you either pay us X dollars or this is all we're going to give you, or it could be, hey, there's complications, you can't. There's a lot of rights and different things that, you know what I mean? So there could be something
and who
on the
knows
legal end, right?
Yeah, who
that we
knows
don't
the
know about.
inner workings of
Yeah.
that. And you know the things I liked about it. So you know this menu thing. It's got like kind of a little mosaic of like the different Madden years and the covers, and it's,
Yeah.
you know, kind of this whole little presentation. And then of course it's got two versions of Madden that are coaching
Yeah.
the opposing all-star games that it starts out with. And my favorite part about it though is it's like the drive starts. This team their first drive, and it'll be like Tom Brady. Like one of Madden's favorite players, and talks about his stats and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to audio clips from old Madden games, I assume, of John Madden talking about Brady, like in-game audio.
Oh, that's kind of neat. Yeah.
And like it's obviously different quality because it's older.
Well, yeah, yeah.
But it like includes it in there, and I think it's cool because it does that kind of throughout this match, and it's just neat. I mean, you can say they should have done more, and maybe they should have, and whatever. But what they did do was pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah. Well, Madden, I mean, he typically states the obvious. And so, like Frank Caliendo, which is funny because he's all like, well, you need to see, and if the quarterback can't see, he probably doesn't know where to throw the ball at. And thanks, John. It's like he's just stating the blatant obvious. So it's just funny. But no, I wanted to ask you about that, and because I think that
so
there's
a Maximum Football.
Yeah, so Maximum Football, this is interesting. So I don't have these games, but I noticed that it's a weird series because it's like 18 and then like 19 and then they did like a 20 and they did no 21 and went right to 22. Like it skips. It's there's 16, 18, 19, 20. And
it seems like a very honest developmental cycle.
Yeah, and I looked at the latest one and saw the stuff on it and was like, I was so impressed with the people who are making it because it's a small team and you're going like, wow, they put like this crazy animation. The sidelines are crazy. It's like they really... The gameplay is solid. Like people who, and every time I watch YouTube stuff on it, that's everybody who's playing it, and there's some YouTube videos of people who just play it for the first time. It's like, this is your total alternative if you want a really good football game. Now I know the early games you could see glimmers there, but apparently the last one released, even though they can't use the license and they have like fake simile teams, like the Atlanta whatever, Atlanta Eagles or whatever. So it's like it's really like what I'm watching on it. I was like, wow, that's like really impressive. That there's someone else is doing that,
and cool indie effort, really.
Yeah, I mean, and I get people. People don't want to buy it mainly because it's not the NFL. I'm like, maybe so. But you don't have any alternatives. And I start looking at that game going like, you know what? Like the game started out at like a $10, $15 game. It's a $40 game now. There's a lot of love there. And apparently, weirdly enough, I guess enough people buy it for them to keep making it. But they're not like, they're skipping years. But it's still like, that's interesting. And I talked to you about it only because I know you're a football guy and you're a fan of it. I like football, but it's like, I know you like Madden and stuff, but I know you would at least take the moment to look at, maybe not buy it, but to look at it, which is what I was doing.
Yeah.
Right?
So some stuff about that. Like, now I lived in Vancouver, Canada for a handful of years.
Yeah, about three years or so, right?
And it was like 4, I think.
Yeah.
So, I've talked about that a few times for various reasons.
Yeah.
But my reason for saying it now is, when I was up there, of course hockey was big, and, I watched a little bit of hockey and stuff. But still, I liked football better because, I'm an American over here.
Yeah.
So I would watch CFL games.
Yeah, Canadian.
And Canadian Football League, and really, like, don't shit on it, anybody, because it's really good if you give it a chance. Like, there's a few major differences. The field's wider, the end zones are deeper. There's only 3 downs instead of 4, and the field goal post is at the front of the end zone, not the back.
Gotcha.
So there's other changes, but those alone make for a lot faster, more exciting game.
Yeah, you only got 3 downs. Yeah.
It's a lot of, and a lot of the NFL players and stuff will go there and play, like, when they're not, I don't know, I guess, not really really washed up or something, or they get cut. They can't, just not playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
They play CFL often.
Yes.
Doug Flutie was one of those players.
Yes.
And he played in the NFL, but he very popular CFL player too. And I think I'm not sure what team he played on. Now I would go to like the CFL BC Lions game, and it was really cool because it was like $10 to get in because nobody cared about football.
Yeah.
And like you can sit wherever you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
The stadium's empty.
Yeah,
Nobody cares about playoffs.
Yeah.
But I would go like $10-20 a week and just get my ticket and like get hot dogs and whatever and watch good football games. And you would hear frequently about Doug Flutie. And
a tremendous
his
player.
attached to this Maximum Football.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that.
If you look, it's like Doug Flutie's Maximum Football or whatever.
No, I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the developer is a Canadian developer as well.
Oh, okay.
So, I knew that about it anyway, and I checked it out, and it's very, very indie for sure. Like, the animation's a little rough.
Yeah.
They did switch to physics-based like the last one, and then this new one is starting to look really, really good. But what a lot of people like about it, though, is it's not NFL licensed, but the customization is very, very good on it. Like, you can make anything pretty much from what
So if you wanted to make logos and such, right?
Yeah, I don't know what your limitations are for that, but
yeah, because I remember Backbreaker, I made characters. Yeah, I remember when Backbreaker came out, and I remember making taking its creator and making various NFL license. I made the Cowboys, I made green stuff, the easier stuff to design, like the helmets and stuff. But I only, like I said, I didn't know he was attached. I don't know why I didn't realize that, but the only reason that I looked into it was I realized there was 3 or 4 games, and so I was like, well, I want to see what the newest one's doing, because I want to see where it's at versus where it was. And because I've looked at the first one too, and I'm like, it's really come along. And again, it may never shatter any records or anything, but I told you about it, but I also say, for what it's doing and for what they have done since the game came out, it's, if you just really need an alternative and you just don't want to give EA your money, that's probably your best, your single best bet, right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, because there's not very many football games out there anyway right now.
No.
You got your Mutant League football. You got your Blood Bowl.
But that's more of a
you don't have any
turn-based
stuff anymore.
Yeah,
it's different. And then you got Madden, and that's kind of it. When one cool thing you talked about that development cycle of Maximum Football. I think so. The last one was 2020, and the new one is 2023. So they've had 3 years of development and stuff.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people use it for is because there isn't a current college game. So with that customization, they'll just kind of make
college.
Their college teams. It's easy to do the college and stuff. And they have a whole dynasty mode in there.
That's interesting.
That you can do recruiting and stuff with.
Oh, cool. Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. It would just be, I think for anybody, is the gameplay good enough, right?
Yeah.
If you're used to Madden, I could see that being a stretch. But,
yes.
If not.
Well, I just, like I said, that's why I told you about it a little bit, because I thought, John may not go out and buy it. I might not go out and buy it, but I thought, he might like to look into it at least, just to be like, oh wow, there's this other football game, right? Which is interesting. Because the weirdest thing about me with sports is I love alternative sports, and I had done a video on handball, and I owned 16, 17, and then they didn't make any until 2021. The weirdest thing about that game was I bought that on sale, and they did the cards, kind of like how Madden and FIFA does the cards, except there's no microtransactions. You use in-game currency to buy the shit. So that's why I was like, well, there you go. And then I remember legitimately the first week of January, the following of this year, there was this random like 6 gig update. And I was like, well, that's weird. Like Big Ben Interactive, they don't typically do a lot of updates for their games. The games just come out and they're finished, right? And it said, 2022 update for roster, and they added some improvements and other things. So I go back in the game, and I saw there was all these trades, and I was like, well, holy shit. They updated the roster for me and put everybody where they're supposed to be on the teams, right? Because this is more of an overseas sport. And, I mean, we do have, but this game does feature American team. So I was like, because Olympic, that's an Olympic sport too. So I was like, that's weird. I was like, but I thought, see, now that was something I always thought, well, why can't they do that? Other games that are on, I get why they don't, but it does show that the small little Big Ben Interactive could do it. Why can't somebody, you know what I mean? So, but I have stuff like that. I have like Spike Volleyball, and I have AO Tennis 2, which is like a really good, really extensive tennis game. I mean, they gave away World Tennis one year or last year on PS Plus, which I put in my library and downloaded. And then World Tennis 2 came out for like, it was on sale for really cheap, and I got that. And then AO Tennis was like $5, and I bought that, the second one. And AO Tennis 2, which is the Australian Open, way crushes World Tennis. Like, even though World Tennis is like the big tennis game, no, AO Tennis is incredible. And it's so extensive with this career mode, and you can upload players and download players and create your own players. And I go online, I find like, oh, there's McEnroe and Serena Williams. It's almost like the WWE games, and it's so good. And the tennis, the way it plays, is very like weirdly realistic. It's almost like watching TV, and it's where World Tennis feels more like I am playing a video game, and AO Tennis feels like I'm playing tennis. It's really neat. But they do some of that similar stuff, and I realized this is all like Big Ben Interactive doing a lot of these games. So it's a weird thing, though. I like to see, games like Maximum Football come out, getting into that indie stuff for sports, because it's nice to see that it's not just one company handling all the fucking sports games. It's at least somebody's trying to put something else out, right? Because a lot of Madden players,
Giants.
yeah, I mean, a lot of Madden players are like, well, that's all I can buy, that's all we have, and that's cool.
Now I don't know if it has social interaction, like if you could download other people's.
Yes.
Like those in-game creators, like I would suck at it. I think like maybe some.
I could do it. I would need time. It's kind of like the wrestling games. It's like the last wrestling game that's released 2022 it's outstanding game, right, compared to the previous dumpster fire. But I looked at like their creative player, and I'm like, yeah, I don't mind making my own characters, but good God, I mean, you can spend 2 hours alone doing like minute shit on that game. It's like and back in the day when it was the N64 stuff, it was like easy to throw together somebody that looked like one of the other wrestlers, and you were done. It didn't take you very long, even though it had an extensive move list. But it's like you said, you get into these games, local creation and all that stuff. It's like I think it's great that's in there. And I've told myself now, a while back, like a few weeks ago, I said, if that ever goes on sale, like $10 or something, right? $4.99, $7.99. I'll probably pick it up, just because the latest one. Because I'd be like, let's see, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So like, let's see what that Maximum Football is really like. Let's do that, because that's a safer purchase for me if it's on sale for cheap, right? Versus me dropping 60 for Madden. Madden's gonna be 60 for fucking ever, So it's like up until they decide to do like a half off sale or something, which they'll do. But no, I just, like I said, I don't want to.
If you're used to Yeah, well, will be adjusted. If you're used to the Madden gameplay, I think it'd be a problem. But if you
Yeah.
want to give something else a try, and especially with that customization stuff, like I'm going back looking at Maximum Football 2018, which was I think the first one they did, and I'm sure they kept these features in, but it advertises like you can do American football configuration, college football configuration, or Canadian football.
Well, that's interesting because then you got college rules, NFL rules, which would be American, and then the CFL rules. So that's neat.
Yeah, at least like with the field and stuff too. Like it has. Look up in the store if you go to Maximum Football 2018. It's the third oldest one.
Yeah.
Screenshots, and it has all three fields there. Like
That's
you can
neat.
just quickly scroll, and you'll see it's a big difference. And I don't know of any CFL games.
No, it's kind of like you remember when EA for a while decided to just make every sports game like this. Fuck it, we don't care what it is.
Yeah.
And we had like fucking EA's curling. I mean, whatever. But they had. I remember I bought one year on the 360. I bought because I don't know how I got into it. It was on ESPN2. I happened to have that, and I bought EA's Arena Football. They had two Arena Football games, and I bought like the latest one, and they never really made them after that. I think they were like, we're done with that. But like that was such a different style, a type of game, and there was that time when EA was making everything. I really wish, in all honesty, I know EA does the MMA stuff, but man, sometimes I miss Fight Night, or whatever, like the boxing games. Yeah. Those were great. Those were so great.
I don't know why there's not any boxing games.
I know MMA is kind of like
are pretty well done.
And I know the MMA is sort of. I think MMA is kind of taken over as the big hand to hand. But the boxing games, man, were always a lot of fun. I remember when. I remember the one that you had on 360, and you would do the slow mo of like somebody getting hit in the head. It'd be like, you see the waves, and dude, that was the funniest shit, man.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like,
if you go back and you look at those, they still look good.
Yeah.
Like,
I think the last,
you just got two characters and that's it.
Yeah, I think the last one they put out, I remember there was some consternation about, like, the story mode was like the seedy side of boxing, and like there was like your guy, and I remember hearing news people
I
like
think it's undisputed.
Yeah, but like I think the boxing commission was like upset about it. Like you're showing like this guy that's like you're doing like fucked up shit as a boxer in the story mode, and you're like he's got you take a dive, and it's like we don't do that, and I think it pissed a lot of people off. And EA's like it's just a story. Yeah. Now, I know that they do have boxing games. I know there's the Creed game that came out, which I've looked at. I haven't played it, but I've looked at it only because it has, like, all the different Rocky characters and other characters you make your own. I've got on my Switch Real Boxing 2, which was a mobile game. But then on the Switch, there's no microtransactions. It's just a pure game. And you make your own character, and you got to, like, lift weights and do stuff. It's, like, classic. And it's a fun game to play, too, with really neat controls. But I miss those fight nights. Were they called fight nights? Yeah, it was Knockout Kings, and then it was Fight Nights. Yeah, Fight Nights was great. Because I had the fourth one. Fight Night 4? Was it 4? 3? 4?
Round 3.
Round 3, yeah.
Round 3.
Yeah. Because there was where you could do
the one that I was thinking of is Fight Night Champion. Which, if you have Xbox Series or X or S or whatever, it's backwards compatible, and it goes on sale all the freaking time. Because I got that Fight Night Champion on Xbox.
No, really?
For
wow.
$2 or something.
Oh, really? Wow.
On sale,
yeah. I just thought it was. I just remember you showing me the slow mo stuff, and you hit like a Vander in the like face, and it was like his whole face waved, and it was like you could hear like his teeth were like crunching. We would just roll. You would do it over and over. It was so funny. And that's the thing.
Because Knockout Kings was one of the first. Because I remember you had got. I think you were the first one with Knockout Kings.
I had on N64.
You had showed me that. Yeah. And I'd got it after that, and then like they started doing the Fight Night series.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was really weird numbered. Like
Yeah, yeah,
Because
they
they
were.
did. It was like round 2 and then 3, and then they put some years behind some of them.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
strange. Yeah, it was really weird.
I don't know what looked like.
And it's kind of a shame because I get it. UFC became like the new combat sport, man-to-man kind of thing. And by the way, everybody,
Whatever.
if you're listening to the Gaming Roundtable tonight, brought to you by Unpaid Gamers on YouTube.com and Twitch.com, and a little plug in the channel there. This must be the sports part of our show, so just bear with us. But we're talking about some good old fight night. But yeah, I think MMA, the UFC games. You know, I haven't played any of them. They always look great, but I never played
They're
played
fun,
them.
but they're hard though. They're really hard, which I guess like they should be because
Yeah, but if they put out another boxing, if they did like a fight night, like just brought another one out or remastered one, I'd probably get it. Yeah, absolutely. Just because those games, and you remember the time where, I mean, it's different now. It'd be easier to do now because the wrestling games are doing that. Where you put your face on there and stuff, but you did the camera and you put me and you in the game. That was so neat. You know, that was so different. So neat.
And they would totally do it because like these sports games do it now. Like the 2K series every year when I do my career, I always do it with my own face in there.
Yeah, because you can use your phone now. You don't even need. But no.
Yeah, you download the app and you do your thing and then it uploads it and you put it in there. And so a lot of games they do it. Something else does it too, and I can't remember.
Yeah.
WWE did it too.
Yes, they did that. I actually used it and put not me in the game, but I used it to put I'm gonna put Bill Clinton in the game, or I'm gonna put whatever. But I tell you, like I said, the stuff with the Fight Night and those old sports games, and I know EA primarily is just Madden and FIFA, and that's their bread and butter. But like I said, it's just I wanted to get. I know your opinion on Madden, but it's great to talk about these sports games, right? Because I remember the NFL Street. There's a lot of the Street. Yeah, the Street series. They had NFL. They had FIFA Street. They had a couple other ones. The Fight Night stuff was great. I really liked that a lot. And then of course, like EA had done the Arena Football and NCAA, and there was a time it seemed like EA was pretty much making. About almost every sport outside of like oddball stuff. Like I said, like I've got alternative sports, and I did a whole week of that. I did like handball and spike volleyball and the AO tennis, and I tried to bring these weird titles out there. But I realized, not thinking about it, but Big Ben Interactive, they're the ones that are doing stuff like European championship racing, and it's like semi trucks, which then you go look into it on YouTube, you're like, holy shit, it's like NASCAR but with semi trucks. And then they made that game, and when you start looking them up, you're like, well, that's
drone racing and shit.
Yeah, I mean, they make a lot of that.
They make that.
They don't make that, but like it's interesting to see that here's a company that's trying to make all the stuff that you would see overseas and not here in the sports, which is weird because like in spike volleyball you could play American and whatnot, but I ended up getting that for really cheap. I paid like $5 for it, and I ended up playing it, and it still was astounding the amount of content that these games have. It's astounding. It's like they go way out beyond to make it as much as you would expect out of a career mode, now whatever, and you don't have anything in the way of story mode or anything, but it's all about the pure sport of it, and I like that. And I think it's nice. I think EA, are they still doing golf games? I mean, they did Tiger Woods forever, and then they did like PGA Tour when Tiger was on the outs.
Well, no. EA doesn't do it. 2K does it.
2K is doing it. Okay.
Yeah, PGA 2K.
Because it wasn't EA doing the Tiger Woods games forever.
Maybe.
Yeah, but like I said, getting into that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying. Well, no, and doesn't EA do? Don't they still do NHL? They don't. They do the NHL games, the hockey games still. They do the NHL, I think, right? Yeah. And actually, a lot of those are actually pretty good. if you're into hockey. I actually like hockey. I don't watch it religiously, but a number of years ago I got into it and started watching one of the NHLs and just kind of enjoyed playing. It was kind of a fun game to play, but I think they're still
I like
making
them
those.
from back in the day, but I like a lot of games from back then, and
Yeah.
I feel like that's what we're missing a lot of stuff. And every now and again something cool comes out, but like there's the big blockbuster NBA 2Ks and the Maddens and the PGA 2Ks and the NHLs and whatever, but like there's been a ton of like what happened to like you remember Jam It
What is it?
on Super Nintendo? It was called Jam It.
I remember that.
Like
yes,
Street
yes.
Ball
Yes,
for
Jam
Super
It. Yeah.
Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember.
One of my favorite basketball games ever. Like no stars, no license, no nothing, just street ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they did the NBA Street and stuff like that, but like you used to just get weird, like just unlicensed, just like where's the last time? Like I know in NBA 2K there is like street ball modes and stuff like that, but it's still part of that system.
Yes.
Like that's good. It's just the 2K engine, but like how about something different?
Yeah, because I mean they did that.
Just weird
I know
street ball
they
game,
did that NBA Playgrounds like 1 and 2.
Yeah,
it's kind of like Jam, like almost like NBA Jam.
Yeah, it's like NBA Jam. Yeah,
but they also have
that was cool, I guess.
Now there are games like that. Weirdly enough, on the Switch, there's a couple basketball games arcade style that's like that. Because I used to like playing Arc Rivals. Remember Arc Rivals?
Yeah.
That was a fun little basketball one, and you could like roll and pull their shorts down, and had the Mohawk guy, and you do some fun stuff with that. And it's weird that I guess developers out there are like, well, those won't sell because it has to be a licensed thing like NBA or something. It's like some people just like playing, those because right now, if you want some, yeah.
Look and I'll give you the best example is look at Rocket League.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
That Rocket League came out of nowhere, some weird little soccer car game or whatever. Very indie kind of deal. It felt like I liked it so much. I got it on a couple systems, and now look at it. It's like huge. And
it became free to play, and it became an e-sport. Like it's an e-sport where people compete like on TV and shit. So that's
it's so much fun, that game. Like I still like that game.
Yeah, Rocket League is great.
I haven't played it in a long time.
Well, I tell you, it's
so much fun.
Like on the basketball end, there's a free-to-play game on PS4. It could be on Xbox too. The 3-on-3 basketball, and it's like street ball, but it's 3-on-3, and you unlock characters and skins, and that's a free-to-play game. And you know what? That's been on PlayStation since the beginning. So it's a long-running free-to-play game that people still play, and it's 3-on-3 freestyle basketball or something. That's what it's called. But it's been on there forever, like forever, and so it's one of those games. But you're right. There's not enough of those to go around, and I think a lot of it is just, will people even buy it? Because it's not. Everybody is under the impression that sports fans want their license. Shit, I'm like, well, if you make a really fun and interesting game, like a cool basketball or something else, it will sell. And because
my Death Row remake.
Oh, I love that. If Death Row come out as a remake, that would be fantastic. Because I really like that game, and because you were like, oh, I can give my characters drugs and steroids, and like it's all kinds of craziness. I like that game, but I tell you, talk about what's the game I like too? I like Disc Jam. Disc Jam's fun to play. And I like it, and there's some other weird.
Though you can win freaking games by just killing the whole other team.
Yeah, you can do that in Mutant League Football or whatever, right? The Mutant Football or whatever. Yeah, and you can do the same thing. Like I've literally won by like just you killed all the quarterbacks, So Death Row was cool because
fake Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I remember. Death Row was such a good game.
Shit like that. Like I like really weird stuff like that. Like I don't know. And I really like combat in sports. Like that kind of hybrid is really fun to me.
Yeah, no, they don't do that no
roller
more.
derby? Why don't they make a roller derby?
Well, they did, and Ubisoft put out a free-to-play one, and then not like 3 months ago, and then they're like, yeah, nobody's playing this, we're done. So, and it was on the free-to-play place. It was, yeah, but it was roller derby, and outside of that new game that came out, that roller drome, that's like the Max Payne with skates.
Crazy.
I actually want to play that. Like, I really want to play that game. I don't know why. It just looks like with the tricks, it's like Tony Hawk with guns. I mean, it looks neat as fuck. I would love to.
It's got bullet time.
Yeah, that's one of those like, watching the videos. Every time I see it, I'm like, that's probably just really fun. On a fun. I think so. Yeah, I think it's on sale. Yeah. But yeah, yeah.
No, it's not. But they, they advertise as that stupid premium bullshit.
Oh, well, I could have swore though maybe it might have been on sale.
Maybe I think it was on sale
a couple weeks ago. I think it was $20.
Yeah.
It looks really fun. Well, I tell you what, let us get off sports because we've been talking about it for a little while now, and it's good to talk about too. And now we're going to go to something.
Talk about it, so.
No, we never talk about it. So it's pretty good. So I hope everyone enjoyed the sports section of our program here tonight. So let's talk about something that and I'm going to get your opinion on it. So you may have heard or you may not have heard, but not even a year later, we're getting into its 9th month, and on February 27th of 2023, Babylon's Fall will go offline and never to be played again. And the game failed as a live service game, and they're canceling and the servers completely, and the major they're doing a couple events and things before then, one more update, and then that's pretty much it for the game. And on February 27th, the servers will shut down permanently. There is no offline mode, even though you can set the game to play offline. You're not really offline, right? It's like you're still on their server. So it's really just a way of, I don't want to play with people, right? But they're still rolling around. You can see them rolling around in the hub world. Now, I got that game a couple months ago when it was on sale, and as much as I kind of didn't like the demo and thought, man, they're really heavy with this microtransaction stuff, and God, there's 2 different kinds of battle passes, and what the hell is going on with a $60 game with all this, like, all this stuff, and I wasn't real happy with the demo. We talked about it on the video. I ended up getting it anyway because I've supported Platinum for a long time. I bought Mad World for the Wii. I got Anarchy Reigns, one of my favorite games on 360, which is a sequel to that game. It's excellent. Bayonetta's playable. I love Bayonetta. I loved the third-person shooter game that they remastered on PS4. God, I can't think of it, but you can buy a Bayonetta that in the same set. I can't think of the name of that game. But I've played Platinum's games extensively, and even some that I didn't realize were Platinum games years ago. Nier Automata is a beautiful RPG, action RPG, and I've always supported them, so I decided to buy it to support them because I was like, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And I really got into playing it. And I started realizing in a lot of ways it reminded me of the original Destiny, except instead of guns, I'm using melee. And the customization got pretty neat, and some of the stuff you can do, and the weapons. And then I started realizing it was a much deeper game than anybody would give it credit for. And so I played it. I was playing it pretty extensively there. It's almost every day I was playing it. And now that the concurrent player at one point got down to only one player on PC playing, and that was it. And a person that recently talked about them shutting down was really upset about it and just begged Platinum to keep the game going because they loved the game. But one player ain't going to make a game go. And I was actually smitten enough with it where I bought, I had earned enough Garaz in the game and different things I had done to buy the battle pass without spending real money, and I was getting some cool like clothing, and there's different things you can do where you can, like, like I can take, I'm wearing a hood and I can put something else on, but I'll keep the same look. And you could color all these different colors. You could do all this stuff. You could color the weapons. And so I got into it. And even though I still don't like all the egregious microtransactions and stuff, but it was neat with the daily challenges, weekly challenges. It started making me feel, it started feeling very much like Destiny 1 to me. And I was like, I actually like this game. And to hear about a game that's a live service game that they put a lot of time and work into, and now as of next year, February 27th, it's going to be gone forever, and there will be no way to play it, which means there's a game that's effective immediately, like on my system. GameStop announced today they're no longer going to sell any copies of it at all, no new or used, because they can't, because it's shutting down in February. So that's going to be a problem for them. So they're out money. And I know I read that and I was like, that sucks, but then I said, but they should never have tried the live service thing. A $60 game where you had a battle pass and then you had a premium, 2 different kinds of battle passes. You had a lot of stuff hidden behind paywalls, and it was just very, very egregious. It was almost on the level, if not on the same level, as Marvel's Avengers, which is still going, but I'm surprised that that's still going. But like with Babylon's Fall, literally not even being a year old, and they already said, we're done. So what are your thoughts on Platinum shuttering the game? And I get it that the player count on the consoles is higher than the PC, but it's not that high, really. And, I mean, you can go in there and might see 10, 15 players at any given time, so it's not very big. But what do you think about them shuttering the game completely, where it will never be able to be played again on February 27th? And how do you feel about them with Square? Because the last 3 games that Square Enix published by other developers, they've all been live service games, and they've all pretty much tanked. And what does that say for like going forward? If they, and since the live service model is a thing that they all want to do, should this be a warning to say, hey, you can't put all these so much egregious or is it like the live service game? It seems like every live service game that comes out fails. Like they all fail. I know one game that hasn't, and that was Final Fantasy 14, which was, or the Royal Edition, where they kept adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, and it was a live service game the way that they were treating it, but it was successful, and only because they didn't hide anything. They just said, here's everything's free to you, which is what it's supposed to be after the initial cost. But how do you feel about Platinum shuttering their game not even a year later? I mean, in February it will be a year, but and how do you? I mean, how was that say for people who bought like the $100 deluxe edition? People who really love Platinum, and you know what I mean. So, what are your thoughts all the way around on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't really care because I don't have it.
Yes.
Never got into it. Don't really. So I don't have any skin in the game.
Yes.
But like I hate seeing a game become unplayable for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Like it really sucks because like somebody made a game for a reason, right? Some games are good and bad, or but it's all subjective. Like no matter what game out there, like some people like it.
Yeah.
And you have fond memories of games just throughout the years, right? And like personally, I like to go back and revisit some of those games. And,
Yes.
And yeah, sure, there's things you can't like really recreate, right? Like the community's different, the whatever.
Yes.
Like it's just there's some of those experiences you can't really replicate, but like you could at least go replay them, revisit them throughout. And that's my problem with just online only games, because you just can't do that. And when there are advantages, of course, to have an online game. But I think
Yes.
I just think the live service model in general is a bad idea. Um, it's something that's meant to be a moneymaker, right? To
Yeah.
do minimal updates, minimal work to get people to just pour money into.
Yeah.
And then they're rarely ever successful, so then they don't last long. And
No.
it makes you hesitant to jump into the next one, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, Avengers, as an example, it has its kind of model like that. And it's still going. They're still continuing to support it. I don't know how many players they're really going with now. But all that aside, it at least had a good campaign mode.
Yes,
So,
it
like,
did.
for
It had a
me,
great
I
story
played
mode.
for that. I played it for that, and then I played some of the co-op stuff and multiplayer stuff. But
Yeah.
like, no matter what happens with that, it had a good campaign,
It did.
and like, I'm fine with that. If that was my experience with it, then that's it.
Yes.
But it really sucks though, like, because I can go back and play that. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's. I don't know if it's tied to their servers all the way. I might test that out. But I don't know. I just think if you're gonna do some stuff like that, I understand some games you just can't do, like ESO, right? You can't make an offline ESO,
No.
right? Like when it's done, it's done. But it is an MMO though, and it's just it's a little different from this live service kind of thing you're doing.
Exactly. And that's the thing, because someone could say, well, Fortnite's a live service game, in the sense that, but it's free. They didn't charge anything up front for it, and it's not technically in the vein of a lot of people say, well, what is a live service game? A live service game is a game that comes out that the company has said, this is our game, but this ain't the whole game. We're going to give you, as the game grows and the community grows, more and more and more and more of the game.
It's a platform.
It's a platform for us to do that. But live service games also is the live service model, which is, hey, we have this content or we have these things for you, but you have to pony up or you have to pay for stuff, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know.
Doing it right. I think there are a few examples to that of it being done right, and I think arguably, and I've mentioned it before, Street Fighter was one of the ones that did it, and I think fighting games are good for that. It's just like, but you have to build something to where people, in my opinion, can, if they want to dump money into it, that's fine. If you want to make a money maker title, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, let you keep that.
Yeah.
Not just shut it down. Especially if you're only going to give it a year and then you shut it down. That's pretty shitty.
Not even a year, like 9 months.
Yeah.
And the sad part is, I've vested time in that. And after February, I'll never be able to ever play it ever again. And the problem is, it's actually been now removed from the PlayStation Store. You can't buy it. So it's like they've already said, so it's weird because it makes me say, well, that's a shame because potential or not, like that's a game that I know you didn't play, I played, and I didn't necessarily like it first, and then got into it by playing it and deep diving into it and looking at systems and going like, wow, this is actually really neat, much more complex than I thought it was going to be, and it had some really interesting things going on with it, and it did remind me a lot of Destiny 1 in the sense that it had that similarity and that hook that was making me come back and play it. And I look at it like, that's a shame, because when I look back at Platinum Games as a whole, they very seldom ever make any game that fails. It's always typically sells well, and I get that, but it's just a shame. And I'm only asking you because, like, you've been a long time gamer, and it's like, you look at what they did with Marvel's Avengers. Like I said, the campaign was excellent, and it was really fun to play through. They recently, of course, they added Spider-Man. He had more comic book panel story, but it wasn't a fleshed out campaign. Not like they did with the Black Panther, which is a whole nother thing with Wakanda being a new board. And the Black Panther was great. really, really good. In some ways, better than the original campaign. And then they added, they added Jane Foster Thor, or just Thor Girl, or whatever. I mean, you can play as Jane in the game, and I'm like, it's like I told Desiree, I'm like, when you load up the game now on the title screen where all the heroes are at, the whole title screen's filled now. They have to have Jane like floating in the air to put her on. So I'm like, where else are you gonna put anybody if they add anybody else? And the other thing weird is they, like I told her, I was like, it's the same problem. Hawkeye and Kate Bishop Hawkeye, it's Hawkeye. They might have slightly different abilities, but it's two Hawkeyes. Now I have two Thors. And I'm like, I don't need two Thors. It's like, and I thought about doing a video on it because I was like,
characters you can do.
I mean, they had originally, they figured out like Strange was going to be in it, and Captain Marvel, and various other characters, but they went with the Thor stuff because of the movie, obviously. And there is like and they put all the movie stuff as skins in there now, but it's still all behind the paywall. They made some stuff cheaper, but it ain't much cheaper. And again, every single character has their own battle pass, so you got to level up everybody individually if you're playing not with people, so you can do the later missions. It's like it's got the same problems, and even though they've improved stuff, they've improved a lot of things in the game. At the same time, they kind of screwed it up, and again, it has a low player count. Platinum Games' Babylon's Fall is being shuttered, like I said, after February. So I'm only asking your point of view to think, like, do you think game companies out there, you know, I mean, even if the game is good, or even if it's bad, I mean, do you think they should try to do that model? Or do you think it's more about, oh well, all the it's because it had such insane, like, everything's locked behind paywalls, and there's multiple types of currencies and multiple types of battle passes and multiple, you know what I mean?
A lot of that turns me off for sure.
Yeah.
You know, I like Avengers. I like the campaign. I like the co-op. It was fine enough. It's not like the end-all Marvel game, but it's pretty cool. But I don't really want to dump $400 in it to get some of the costumes.
Yeah.
And like, I don't, you know, there are good examples of live service games, but very few that are really still holding steam and has been like, that kind of leaves everybody feeling good about it, or just super popular and stuff.
Yeah.
But you know, it's the same problem we see with like all kinds of different things in the gaming industry, right? Is like some breakout success of something, and then everybody just tries to jump on the bandwagon, and then it's like
true.
The repeat offenders of jumping on the bandwagon and then milking every dollar they can out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, okay, you can't just do an Avengers game and make like an isolated thing to do your sequel. You gotta, you know, try to get, you know, $400 from a player and get your extra costumes, and you know, like, especially comic book fans and shit like that, like, they're gonna bite on like symbiote Spider-Man, and they're gonna bite on like Grey Hulk, and you know, like a lot of those iconic kind of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like just taking advantage of players is what it usually is.
Yeah.
So I don't think live service within itself is something that needs to stop, because it's a very cool idea, and if it's implemented right, it's, you know, it can be something really great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just rarely ever given the proper attention and lifespan to do that with. Like, you know, I don't think. What's the first live service game you remember?
Well, I mean,
because I kind of think Destiny was like the concept at that time. Like when it was coming out, it was like, wait a minute, okay, what now? Like, you're kind of online, but you're. How's that work?
I just assumed that
to me seemed like the first one.
Because it wasn't, they didn't refer to it as an MMO. They called it a shared world shooter. And even though it had MMO-like things, it really wasn't. Because most of the time you played the game by yourself, even though you see people running around in the game world. And you could hook up, like, let me go to a fire team mission, and it would populate with 2 other people randomly, or your friends if you were playing with them. And Destiny 1 is, they kept adding things and content, and yes, the expansions cost money, which is to be expected, but it was the first one that constantly did updates and changed weapons and did different things and kept the game with events and stuff that you didn't pay for, and it was very successful. But I think
Would
a
you
lot.
call it a live service?
I would say that it was an early form of live service game, yes. And I tell you though, but this is what I've always said about Destiny, made by Bungie. Bungie, the gameplay, the moment-to-moment gameplay in that game, the gunplay, because of their pedigree with Halo, was so good that if the game did not have that in it, didn't have really good gunplay, it would have died. It would just been over with. But because the gunplay was so good and felt good, it was like, and it had that good hook, it made you want to keep playing it. Now, Destiny 2, sadly, was a viable game, and then went free to play, and then left Activision, and then it got stupid, and now it's terrible. And they basically effectively sucked the fun out of the game, and there's a lot of paywall stuff, and a lot of, every season's a new expansion. You're like, and you gotta pay $30 for, and you gotta pay this, and there's a lot of pay me, and I won't play the game. I refuse. And they took a game that I absolutely loved. They took a game that I loved to play and ruined it.
Maybe we can go back further, because you said seasons. What about Diablo?
Like Diablo 3?
Right? Because it's
they had seasonal play. Yeah, I'd
but
say
didn't it add that later though?
It added seasonal play.
There, right?
Yeah, it wasn't always there. It was added later, and they don't have any real microtransactions in the game. It's more seasonal character is free. So I don't know if it's really in the strictest sense.
No, microtransactions though is a different part of it, right? Like live service and definition would be your platform and your live like kind of content.
But I mean, you could probably technically call it that, yes. But I think what's happened
Let's see
with
first live service game.
Yeah.
I guess the problem is they lump MMOs in there because it got
well, you could go back further than that to like EverQuest.
Yeah.
Which predates
Ultima Online. How about that?
Yeah. I don't like to say MMOs are live service games only because you pay a monthly premium to play them. And I'm looking at, from a console standpoint, it's like, give us $60 for a game that is not complete, and we will keep adding to it to make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At the same time, we will have an economy in the game that's microtransaction based. So it just depends on how you look at it. Yeah. So, but I hate to hear that Babylon Spa didn't get a fair shake from the reviewers, because I started realizing, they played the game, but they didn't play the game. They played it enough to review it, maybe went through the story, but they didn't really deep dive and really figure out the different weapons that you had 4 of them you could carry, and how certain things you did with them triggered different things, and it was very dynamic. On the surface, you couldn't tell that until you learned that, right? And then they added like pistols as a sub-weapon, and like I could do some neat things with like build a character up with a super high defense, right? Because they had all this different armor you could craft and or obtain loot-wise, and you could carry like a couple hammers and you'd swing them, but if you held down the button, like the square button, they would do this thing which, like, you would like taunt an enemy and it would draw aggro. So you had builds in this game, right? But they don't clue you in on that at all. It's something they let you figure out, right? By reading, you'll read the little snippets in between loading and go, oh, I can do that with that, okay. And you start realizing, oh, I can make builds. I can have an aggro build, I can have a defensive build, I can have a speed build, I can have, because the different armor sets and different things.
Figured out the game is shut down.
Yeah, the game is shutting down, and so you're kind of done, and it's kind of a shame because it just makes me say, you know, and what I hate about it is instead of saying, okay, we'll just let you play the game offline and it won't matter that it's not online anymore, you can just still play it, they're like, no, there is no offline mode. So you can never play it again. Ever. Period. It's done. So, and I feel bad for people who were like, who spent 60 on it, or I've spent 20 on a sale, and it was on sale like really shortly after it came out, like a month later. And then, or what about somebody that just loved Platinum's like, well, I'm gonna buy the gold edition and spend 120. And I'm like, wow, you know, they got screwed.
When I see a live service game out, you know what I do?
Yeah.
I don't even bother.
Yeah.
Because I know it's gonna, I know it's gonna suck. It's gonna fail. It's gonna shut down. I'm like,
yeah. But I was just asking you about that because I know you hadn't played it, or you hadn't really played it or owned it, but I just wanted to get your thoughts.
I think it's shitty.
Yeah.
I think it's a shitty practice.
Yeah, because...
Which, by the way, not really anything related to that. But I'm eating these club crackers because I'm starving, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that, so...
Well, I'm surprised. I'm surprised you can go with the Triscuits. Because those are good as shit.
No, I'm not drinking. No, they're actually... These are leftover, so like piss poor. It's Wendy's, like the little 2-packs of club crackers that come.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They gave us like 20 of them for whatever reason.
Oh really?
And
wow.
there's a few sitting on this table beside me.
Yeah.
I started eating.
Yeah. That's funny. That's crazy. But no, like I said, I just, you know, to kind of close on that, it's a shame that that's what's happened, is that we are getting games like Avengers who they've had updates, but they're not anything to sneeze at because there isn't a huge player base. That, you know, Platinum Games Babylon's Fall is now falled and be done in February. And so I guess if you wanted to play it for the next 4 months or whatever, and then, you know, it's kind of like I'm actually incredibly shocked that they've kept the Anthem servers going, considering that people still play it, but at any given time, there's been many times, even recently, I was playing Anthem like a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, well, I'm the only one flying around, the only one.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's insane. And then, somebody randomly shows up, and I'm actually surprised that like Fallout 76 is still going, because the last time I played it, which was again maybe a month ago, I was like, well, here's me and the 3 other people rolling around. I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I just, yeah.
You know, because a lot of that, you know, we talked about Anthem before, and I think it fell really because of the community.
Yeah.
All over.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, and combination of it could have had better support, obviously, but you know, with all these things, like, it was still a good game. It had a little mini campaign and stuff, and regardless, you could still fly around and do those battles, which are hella fun.
Oh yeah.
I would like to see companies with those just do, you know, just like, if you're gonna close out a thing, just do a patch or whatever, and let whatever online or whatever offline mode you can have, like, just leave that for players, or like do instead of dedicated server, just switch to like a peer-to-peer connection or something, to where you know, you don't gotta maintain anything, but you know, you can still fly around your world and like I can join it or something, or your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, at least do that for players. Like, you're
well,
gonna hype up this thing, this big budget shit, and then, you know, abandon it and leave everybody, you know,
pretty much in the dust. Yeah.
It's just, you know, just taking advantage of players.
Yeah, because because the problem is that it came up a little bit through the various gaming, Xbox, Sony, whatever, Platinum. Well, can I get a refund? And they're like, well, no, you can't. Sorry about your luck. We got your money, right? And then GameStop has to get rid of. They got rid of all the copies they had of it, so they lost money. It's just like a big old like, well, you got your money. I guess that's what you're using to make Bayonetta 3 for the Switch.
I think you can get, probably. I think you can get Anthem for 50 cents though.
Yeah, it's really cheap. It's very cheap. Yeah. Interestingly enough, it's like when Battleborn went down, even though it had a offline single player story mode, which was really good, like when it went off for good, that was it. It is completely not playable at all. And so I took my copy of it, and I could do nothing with it. It was useless to me. So I threw it away because it was a paperweight. I didn't care to keep it in my life, just to have it as a hard copy. I'm like, I don't care. I can't do anything with it. It's just going to sit. And I go to like, you load it up and it would say, 2K wants to thank you for your whatever support, blah blah blah, and that was it, right? So
you didn't want that forever.
No, and so I'm just kind of like over it, and I was like, that's such a shame because that was a really fun game to play offline. The story was great. You could play with bots and progress and have fun, and I really enjoyed it. And it was like, wow, that sucks that that's gone. Because that goes back into what people are talking about with why they're upset about Babylon's, or they're upset about these games, or even if they pull the plug on Avengers and you can't play it no more. That's not game preservation, right? I can't, if I have this game and I can never play it again, ever, right? It's like, then what then? What now? Right?
Yeah. That's the good part.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I guess that's the name of the game these days.
Mm-hmm. So here's another one. Here's another interesting story that came out today, and I'll give your thoughts because you're a Halo fan, and I'm a Halo fan in passing. So Microsoft said that Halo Infinite, to them, didn't meet their sales expectation that they wanted to, which caused 343 Studios to kind of shuffle some of their personnel. Some people were actually just flat let go from that company. Senior programmers, leads, things like that. People were in the higher ups, and some other people got shuttered other places. And Microsoft saying that Infinite did not sell well, like as they hoped. So, yeah. So the question is, yeah, I mean, which is, when I read that today, I was like, I was kind of like, really? Halo Infinite didn't sell well? And I wonder, did they have like some unrealistic expectation? Did Microsoft like, well, we need you to sell like 50 million copies? It's like, that ain't gonna happen, So, or do you feel like, or if you've played Infinite, right, and you've talked to me about Infinite and some of the open world, do you think because it was different and people were like, I don't know about, do you think there was that them saying that, and hey, it didn't sell as well? Do you think there are reasons behind why it didn't sell as well as they thought? Or do you think it was more of an unrealistic amount they wanted to sell?
Probably unrealistic because it looks like, is this right? This can't be right.
It was just another gaming
installment from its blockbuster gaming franchise, which has sold more. Oh, that's the franchise. I see. Yeah, franchise. Okay, I knew those numbers seemed a little high. I was trying to look up and see how many it sold. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they would expect, I guess. Halo to me as a franchise feels dated. And it doesn't mean it's bad, because I like Halo, and I liked Halo Infinite. It's just when and like it's its own thing. It like the new Halo feels like the old Halo. And
Yeah.
like that's not a bad thing at all, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like when the most popular things out there are Call of Duty and these realistic advanced shooters, like you gotta have the Halo audience or people wanting to get into that, I think, in order for it to be a monumental event.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
That makes
Like,
sense.
you play Halo and like I think just within the past couple of games, can you like aim down the rifle or like a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And like I don't know, it just feels. I don't know, like it's kind of hard to explain. Like, and I don't know if it's because I played it way back when, and playing it now reminds me of then, and like we've evolved as shooters like over the years.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just like my nostalgia taking that, but to me, it feels like a more basic shooter, and I don't know that that's a bad thing, but I think some people may view it that way, which could cause
Yeah.
something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also launching it. It's like a launch title for systems that have had rocky availability, right?
Yes. Yes.
Like now, still, I see a lot of people complain about this stuff, and I still don't agree. Like, you can't go into Walmart and just buy a PS5. You might be able to get an Xbox Series. Those are like the Xbox side of things is much easier to get. But if you really want these new systems, like multiple times a week, I can get it. Like I see them available. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a complete terrible. Or I don't think it's like a end all excuse. But Halo Infinite came out several months ago now, and it was at the time where Xbox was a little bit harder to get, right?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of that. You also got the people who just don't make those next gen jumps right away.
True.
So there's a little bit of that. There's the PC side of things, but I don't care what you ever do, piracy is gonna roll that land.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah.
like whatever fucking DRM you got, you know. I know it's got its PC player base still though. So I don't know. I think, and like too, there's timing of this stuff. Like I forget when it came out. It came out at a time where I dedicated enough time and I played through it.
Yeah.
But I was also wanting to try a bunch of other shit too. And I don't know. I wasn't really hyped for it either. It was like, oh, I'm gonna play the new Halo because why not? I got this new Xbox. I like Halo. I'm gonna get it. I hadn't played the one before it because I didn't have an Xbox One, so I had to like read about the timeline and what's going on with the story.
Yeah.
And I don't ever really think the story's that great in Halo, to be honest. Like the first one was cool, but I don't know. I could take or leave most of it. So I think the series has its issues. I think Microsoft, like, when you look over the years of console exclusives and what's driven these consoles, right? Like Xbox has always put a ton of weight on Halo.
This is true.
And I feel like they just kind of did the same thing with the game. Maybe they expected it to just be the end all game with unrealistic expectations, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, I mean in the story. Yeah, in the story I read,
they probably
it was,
sold more off Forza, to be honest with you.
Yeah, probably. I tell you, reading how 343, they had to reshuttle some stuff and reshuffle personnel and let some of them go due to the either sales or disappointing, and that's just shit rolls downhill kind of a situation. But the issue with that is if you've got people who've been working on Halo for a little bit and they leave and they got to get new people in there, Either they're looking for fresh ideas or something. But you know, I don't want to say that. If you look back, Halo's been around a long, long time, and you know, it's kind of hard to quantify like what major change or what several things you could change, because again, you risk hurting the original player base that loves the game the way it is, and you're trying to attract new people, and you can't have Halo play like COD. You just can't. It won't.
Now, I have a couple things to add real quick too. You know, in January they were promoting this big milestone of having over 20 million players.
Yeah.
So, like, how are you gonna promote that and then say it didn't sell well? Right?
Yeah, it's weird. They said it didn't meet up to the sales expectations that they wanted, which makes
Maybe
me
it's because you put it on Game Pass.
And that's possible, because that's, if I own Game Pass and I bought it, you know, a year ago for $10 or however it is a month, it's on Game Pass. I didn't drop $60 on Halo, right?
Yeah.
And most people probably was like, oh, Halo Infinite's going to be on Game Pass. I'll just buy even if I didn't own Game Pass at the time. Well, I'll just buy Game Pass because now I want Halo.
Now,
right?
I tell you, so kind of like the live service stuff and that sustainability stuff. I kind of cheat the system first off. I have Game Pass, but I kind of don't. Like, my son has Game Pass, but I can add it to my system and download stuff.
Yeah.
On my Xbox using his Game Pass.
Yeah.
But so I had Game Pass, but I bought it anyway. Actually.
Yeah.
Even though it was a launch date, because you know I don't like maintaining subscriptions to keep content, and that's one of those games I will just want to like have in my collection over the years.
Yeah.
So I did actually buy it with Game Pass, but not everybody's going to want to do that.
No, that's true. Well, see, and
like
that's
you said, you wouldn't.
Yeah. No.
You know, and that's not just you. You know, most people wouldn't if they have access to Game Pass.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. So that's probably a fair assessment. Thinking like, well, we didn't sell as many like we wanted to. You double-edged swords yourself. You kind of kayfabed yourself. You were like, Game Pass is awesome for $10 a month, but we'll put everything on it, right? Because Halo is a popular enough series that had it not been on Game Pass at all, and you had to buy it, it probably would have sold like crazy, right? Yeah. But to put it on there, and I'm like, well, mine's $10 a month. It comes out automatically. Oh, there's my Halo that I didn't spend $60 on, right? So it's like,
right. Yeah.
I mean,
and
so yeah,
and it's all those things, because I think it is an aging series, and it has some of its like, you know, it is in my opinion a more simple shooter experience. But
yes.
I still loved it though. Like I'm not shitting on it at all, because I played through the whole thing. I loved it. It was super fun to get back in there and to like just that same Halo gameplay that I remember from back then. Like it was there and it was great.
Yeah.
You know, big open, and they went kind of more open world with this one a little bit too,
which I think is cool.
Yeah, but you know, you can't. I think it probably has most to do with the Game Pass thing, really, because and like it's not necessarily a bad thing, because that's what you wanted. You want to build up this service, and they're doing it. Like they're really knocking it out of the park with that. But you can't put your biggest blockbuster on there and expect people to buy it when you're also
for 60. Like, were you assuming that people are like, oh, this game's fun, let me go out and buy it so I can have a hard copy of it and not a digital copy or whatever? And I'm like, people ain't going to do that. They're going to play through the whole game. Why do they need to buy, you know? So
I tell you what they should do is, because you know they are removing games from Game Pass here.
Yeah.
You know, they're big Microsoft owned ones. They keep them on there, and I think they just want to continue building that. But not everybody, you know, like I said, they don't necessarily want to always pay that monthly thing.
Yeah.
So how about you, if you're going to release your games at launch like that, maybe you can buy it at a discounted rate.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense.
You're a current subscriber. You know, I could see some people maybe trying to cheat the system in that way. And I'm sure there's very easy ways around that. But, you know, what if you could have Game Pass, but if you want to make sure you keep it in your collection or whatever, you get like a $20 off or something.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
if you're a Game Pass subscriber. And, you know, sometimes they do discounts like that, but, you know, I'm not seeing that with launch titles and stuff. But that
No,
would be a fair incentive, I think.
I think so. No, I think that's a good idea. I think it would be like, okay, well, I don't have to pay full price for it, and I really want it, so there you have it, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
but again, Microsoft announcing that they're disappointed in the sales, which probably does have a lot to do with Game Pass, like you said. It's like you can't really be pissed at it about it because you're all the one that came up with this system in the first place. So it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
maybe you shouldn't have done that and been like, we'll let you play on Game Pass the first level of it, but that's all you get. And if you really want it, you can buy it at $30 or something, like discount, because you are a subscriber. Everybody else pays 60. Give people a taste, and then make them pay for. It was so much fun. I really want to keep playing it. Give them that
But then that
incentive.
waters down the Game Pass, right? Which is
It
not what they
does.
want.
Which is not what they want. So it's a
Now, the
fine line.
multiplayer was free to play, though.
Yes, which is cool, because some people at this point probably do just play Halo for the multiplayer, because multiplayer was really popular, and it sort of was one of the early console, some of the first that you could play just strictly online, which is interesting. Speaking of shooters and online, with the GoldenEye thing coming for Xbox and Switch,
Can't wait.
and you're going to be able to play it online, multiplayer, which is really interesting. I was like, oh man, jump back into the facility. That's awesome news to hear. And it's interesting that it's on Switch, and I don't own the new Xbox or anything, but I do own a Switch. So I'm like, hey,
Well,
yeah.
you know, there's some things about that, and maybe I'm hoping there's some clarification. So, but so far, from what's been seemingly announced, there's the two versions of it, which I assume they had to do because, you know, that's the tricky relationship. Right?
Yeah.
Rare
Yeah.
is Microsoft, but it's a Nintendo license thing.
Yeah.
They gotta come up with something. So, you know, the Xbox is getting the upgraded, like, 4K resolution and stuff.
Yeah.
There's some other benefits that they're getting, but it's, you know, it's basically, it's not a remake at all. It's just a remaster.
Yeah.
They're getting some additions there, and the Switch one, I think, is just getting kind of like a straight port.
Yeah, because they do the N64 online thing. Yeah, which you got to pay
and
for.
that's the way. Yeah, that's the way you're gonna have to seemingly play it. is through
And
that.
even if they don't do anything multiplayer online at all for GoldenEye, to me it would
I think
still
the
be
Xbox
worth.
one is.
Yeah, but it would still be worth it to get it on Switch because it is, even though it's digital and even though you won't buy it in stores and even though it still would be just wow, I can play this again, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I think for me, I think the clear version is the Xbox one.
Oh,
'Cause
obviously,
that is
yeah.
That is the other thing, because the Xbox, I think it comes with, I think it supports online.
Yeah,
multiplayer.
well, obviously, because that would be great to jump in and play against people.
Yeah.
Now, but the question is, yeah.
Because if that's what you have, that's what you have. But it sucks that it's behind that subscription emulation.
It does suck. It does suck. I'm going to tell you, though, if they do the online on Xbox, are they limited to 4 players? Because they ain't real big maps. And if you put like 36 players in there, that would be rough. You know?
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
I think they would do. I think they would do that. And you know, it's the one version so far that you can kind of own, right?
Yeah,
Now, one cool
true.
thing they're doing is if you own a digital copy of the Rare Replay,
Yeah.
it's going to be free.
Oh, that's cool. Very nice. Very
And
nice.
if you don't own that digital, right now, actually, by the way, that Rare Replay is on sale for $7 in the Microsoft Store.
Oh, okay. That's very
So-
cheap. Yeah.
You can, and it's normally 30.
So that's cheap. That's
So-
real cheap. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're, I think they're gonna release a standalone Xbox GoldenEye that you can buy. Maybe I have no idea, but
Yeah.
that's the way it sounded like. But it sounded like if you have the digital rare replay, you can get it for
Yeah.
free.
Because
And
GoldenEye,
that's $7 now. So like GoldenEye's worth $7 if you
yeah,
that's all
yeah,
you can get it
yeah.
for. But the rare
GoldenEye,
replay is
yeah,
cool because it
yeah.
comes with Perfect Dark.
True, which is pretty amazing. Like, I had gotten Perfect Dark on the Xbox 360's arcade live, the original, because the sequel sucks. And but the old one was beautiful, and I had gotten that because I just loved it. I used to play against bots and bot matches, had fun.
I think it comes with both,
yeah,
by the way. That
yeah,
replay, both,
and I think it does.
Perfect Dark.
But I always liked that game, and GoldenEye in particular. Like, I even bought the redone version for some reason. Daniel Craig, was where they remastered it or whatever. It was on 360, Wii U. It was on something.
Done it
Yeah,
twice, actually.
yeah. And I had that because I was like, I just love that game. And the N64 GoldenEye, is what it just really cemented like shooters for a lot of people on 360. Interestingly enough, Bungie had played a lot of it while they were trying to figure out Halo. So it's an iconic game in the first-person genre on console. It's an iconic game for being 3D, and it was such a fun game to play through. And then cheats came out years later, and you had a lot of fun with that. And just, it's such a iconic game. And even though,
Let me tell you, go ahead.
Even though so much more newer shooters, makes GoldenEye kind of look like it's standing still. But to me, it's like GoldenEye was just this unique, fun, just awesome, well put together game. And it was a game that I had played, 5 years later after the fact, and was still like playing the game, right? So
it was so good. And that's the thing. It's like nostalgia is a very real thing. And I'm sure to a lot of people they may play it and be like, okay, whatever. But regardless of how it technically is good now and how much enjoyment you give it, it's one of those things like it deserves to be revisited and preserved in some kind of new format. And one of the biggest things I'm really excited about it for is I don't know the last time you tried to go back and play a shooter on the N64 with one.
No, it's been a long time.
It's pretty hard to go back to.
I'm sure.
Used to dual stick kind of stuff, and and that's how we all played it, and whatever, that's the authenticity of it.
But it worked. It really worked back then.
It's hard to go back to that though, and the new
I can see
Xbox
that.
one, that's one of the things they mentioned was dual stick support,
which is great.
So you're going to be able to play it in a more functional way.
More modern controls. R2's your trigger, blah blah blah. So yes, I'm excited for that. I'm excited for Xbox players to get that. I'm excited, even though it's behind a paywall on the Switch. It's still like that's going to be my incentive to get it, right? And because that's too hard to pass on.
And we can play some GoldenEye.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I don't know if that replay of Perfect Dark's online.
Yeah, I tell you. So here's another interesting thing, and I'll get your thoughts on this too. So I own a fuck ton of Ubisoft games. I don't like them as a whole as a company, the way they operate, but their games are always, to me, something about them I just really like, and I own a lot of them. And even though I can have a lot of consternation with the way that they do a lot of paywall stuff and just things about them as a whole, but I am excited because they finally they are putting an Assassin's Creed in Japan. Assassin's Creed codename Red, but it is in feudal Japan, probably during the Sengoku period. And I'm like, I have talked about them. They should go to Japan. They've been needing to go to Japan. why for the last 2-3 years, and people are like, well, why? Is it because it's fucking ninjas, it's samurai, there's assassin, it's a perfect setting for that whole thing. We spend all this time in Assassin's Creed over in Europe, and it's always overseas in Europe. It's Greece and Rome and Egypt and freaking England. It's always there, and they never put it anywhere else. And the closest we got to that was, well, we had 3, which was in Americas, which wasn't that great of a game. I just never thought it was. And the first part where you play as the assassin's dad, that was the best part of the game. With the ship, the first time they introduced ship battles, and then that's all you ever get to do. And the Revolutionary War, and it was, but to see this, the finally going to Japan. I know they got the Mirage coming out, which is like in Baghdad, and that's an interesting setting. That's closer to the 2.5D like Assassin's Creed India, but which is in that vicinity. But I'm really excited for Japan because that's huge, and the player base for that has been asking them forever to do that, and now they're doing it. What do you think about that? How do you feel about them finally going to a setting that seems just perfect for the swords play, the assassins, ninjas, samurai? It just seems like the environment it needs to go to, right?
I mean, I think it's cool. I think they've announced some changes for the Assassin's Creed series in general anyway.
Yeah.
They're nixing a lot of the current timeline stuff.
Yeah, because people don't care. They haven't cared about that for the longest time. I was like, the anonymous stuff, Asturga, man, who cares?
And then they also, I thought they said that they were going to start downplaying like how big the worlds and stuff are.
I've heard that. They're trying to not go so where it's like, oh, here's these trillion icons. We want to make a more vertically dense world, kind of like how Yakuza does it, where it's like, even though how Judgment, you play Judgment, which is in that same universe, it's like, it's not so much the game world map is huge, it's the fact that it's so dense and there's a lot of verticality. And even though the game world is so, and that's the thing I've always said about the Yakuza series, it's like, it's an open world that's not big at all, but it's dense and lived in and just crowded, and it feels much bigger than it is because of that. And I think them trying to scale down, because they got a lot of flack for that in Odyssey, is where it really started. Even though Origins had a very big map, Odyssey's map was insane. And then Valhalla's map is even more insane. When you're like, oh, I got 200, 300 hours to beat the game. So it was at that point where they got a lot of flack for that, saying, why are you making... And then you came out with Ragnarok as a DLC, but then that ended up being its own game. It's separate now. And so you're like, and they've had a lot of people going, look, man, it's just too much. It's too big of a world.
That's the thing, because they release out them Assassin's Creed pretty close together. It's
well,
like,
that
beat this last
and
one. That was always my
and they're now referring to games as their open world role-playing game. So, because they have added all the RPG stuff in there, and they're trying to be more or less kind of like The Witcher. I hate to use that, but that's what they're doing, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. They've gotten away, because Assassin's Creed Origins kind of started that, but to kind of redo the system in the series. But them going to Japan, to me, like I think the Baghdad thing will be an interesting setting, but the Japanese setting, that's where I was like, that's what I want. Assassin's Creed, I mean, several years now.
I'm sorry, I kind of danced around your question, I guess, a little bit, but, talking about those changes and stuff, but like with that specifically, though, I think it is cool that they're doing that. It's just something, I don't know, it's completely different for the series.
Yeah. No, and the thing about the series is if you and you've played them, I've been playing them, and I look at like, what I liked about, I have different likes. There's certain ones I just absolutely do not like at all. Like, they're fucking terrible games. And then other ones are really good. And when I look at some of the series, it's like, when I look at my favorites, it's like, I really like Syndicate. And people are like, why do you like Syndicate versus, like, whatever other game? I said, I like Syndicate because Syndicate takes place in London in a time period that I love, that that pre-industrial age, overseas at early 1900s, right out of the late 1800s, Jack the Ripper time. I was like Whitechapel and all that. I said, so you could play as two different characters, which is interesting. And they started adding the RPG elements and having the horse carriages and all the different things and the grappling hook, which was new to the series. So it kind of felt more like Batman, but it was nice to be able to grapple up to a roof, and it just had really good parkour and a really neat combat system. Yeah, and also where the enemies had levels. So they started to structure it towards more RPG. I love Syndicate. Then you turned around with Unity, which was an abysmal game at launch. It took 2 years to fix. And that's the Revolutionary in France, which is like, And then I wasn't really interested in it. I'm like, it's still more of the normal Assassin's Creed. Nothing's standing apart on it. And then, I love Black Flag because of the pirate setting, because your character's he fakes being part of the Templars, and then he fakes being part of the assassins. He never is one or ever becomes one. He pretends the whole game. So, and because it's pirate themed and it's perfect setting, and the ship combat was so great, and it's like, I like that one. But its sequel, Rogue, was a much better game because you get to see an assassin say, these guys ain't what they say they are. And you go to the Templars, you find out, well, wait a minute, the Templars are not as bad, because you start seeing both sides and realize there's so much propaganda between the two that some of the assassins are not on the up and up, and neither are the Templars, but some of them are. It's like they're not all bad. So I loved that dynamic. So like, but the Japan thing for me is huge, because I've been wanting them to go there forever. And if they do put it in the Sengoku period, that's great. I was like, either go to Japan or go to China during the Three Kingdoms period, because it's another great setting for that series. So I'm so happy that they're doing that. When they announced that, I mean, they got a lot in the pipeline for AC, but I was like, finally, like, I don't know why they took so long.
Like, with your love for Dynasty Warriors and stuff, I feel like it kind of plays right into
because I don't know
the style of game you like.
If you played Ghost of Tsushima, which is an incredible game.
I have played it, yeah.
And that game is it's kind of AC, or Witcher, but that game's incredible. Now, I haven't played it, but me and my beautiful fiance and her sister, but me and her one night, we played the free-to-play, like the multiplayer thing that's got stories and there's online mode and stuff where you can just download for free. We played through the Ghost story, through the whole thing, and beat it. Man, the free-to-play multiplayer with all the different customizations, it's phenomenal. And I was like, and that was free. And it's like, that game is excellent.
I played a little bit of it. I have it, and I have the PS5 version of it, I guess, all the add-on, all the fancy shit, as good as you can get it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I played a little bit of it, and then I was kind of wanting something else at the time, so I stopped. But I want to go back to it. It was like I didn't want to cheapen the experience because I wasn't in it mentally at the time. But what I've played is super, super awesome.
Yeah.
And everybody knows it's great, I think, because it's getting such praise.
Yeah,
so,
it's a fantastic game. I mean, the story, the artwork, the graphics, and just everything the gameplay. Just when you counter something and hit, it's so vicious and precise, and it feels like how that's how swordplay should be done. And they did such a good job on the little details, kind of almost like how Rockstar did with Red Dead. They worked so hard on the minute details that game is phenomenal. And
Maybe I'll
just
do leisure play that when I go to play.
Yeah, but I tell you what, the AC going to Japan is interesting because it must be the year of Japan, because the next Like a Dragon, part of the Yakuza series, but not the main line. I know they gave away Like a Dragon Yakuza 5 for free, last month. The next one in that series takes place in feudal Japan. All those years ago, Sengoku period. I saw it on the Coming Soon page. I was like, why are they showing a guy with a samurai and he's got a gun, but it's like an old style gun from, wait a minute. So I watch the video. I'm like, they're putting it in feudal Japan. I got samurais and shit. That's a completely different setting, because all those games takes place in modern. So for them to do that, I was like, and they're not doing like a Dragon had turn-based battles. This one does not. It's more like free-flow combat, like the Yakuza series Judgment. And I was like, whoa, they're doing feudal. I was like, I'm getting an AC game and a Yakuza game, and feudal. It's like, this is like the year of Thomas when it comes to games. This is great. So I'm excited for that, man. I really am. There's some tremendous games going, and then I just realized, looking at the page, all the stuff that's coming out, there's some really, that Hogwarts Legacy's looking great. I actually want to play that. Yeah, it's looking amazing. Online, play with your friends, whatever. That looks great. They're putting the Gungraves here. I was like, finally, I love Gungrave. That's coming out. There's some really cool things being released. The next in the Supermassive game, The Devil in Me or whatever, and that's coming out, and that's about H.H. Holmes, and I was like, that's fascinating. That looks much more darker, and Desiree, she loves those games. They're great, and she loves them. She went through the Quarry. We sat here and watched her play through it, and she liked the Quarry a lot. Unfortunately, only one person survived. So, but she wants to try to play through it, and she's got all of those. She kind of started playing back through the one where they're in Iraq in the caves and stuff. House of Ashes. And at first it was a little slow, but she started playing it, picking up and playing through that, and that Devil in Me looking great. So I was like, that's cool. And I know we kind of off subject, because I was really asking you how you felt about AC Japan, but yeah, I mean, that's a big announcement from Ubisoft to me.
Yeah, and those games are great. The Devil in Me is definitely. I get them all too. I like playing through all those. And,
because I've got Man of Dan, because they give it away for free. And I've got Until Dawn, because they give that away for free at one point. I haven't actively bought them. If I want to play them, I can play with my fiance's got them all.
So sale forever. I know you don't have it.
That was good. That was
stuff, but,
watching her play through it. It was really good. It's a really good game. It's definitely it seems like that they continue to improve those games, and they're getting interesting. She really loves the mainline series, because you got the guy and the guy, the shrink guy in the library, whatever, he's talking to you, and he's like, this or that. And I like the idea of this one, because we watched the trailer and I was like, it's about H.H. Holmes, and I know a lot about this particular American serial killer, but I watched a documentary again recently, because he's a fascinating character.
It is. And let me
so
tell you
that's
something.
neat.
So we go to Chicago all the time. We live in Chicago. And so anywhere we go, we travel a lot. We intentionally stay in the most haunted place we can find.
Yeah.
So whenever we go to Chicago, we stay in the Congress, which is considered the most haunted hotel in Illinois. Yeah,
I've actually seen Ghost Adventures, I think, went there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So we stay there every time. And, which, that's got its own stuff. I don't really get creeped out or anything. There are some parts of that hotel, though, that feel a little kind of uneasy-ish.
A little sketch. Yeah, a little sketch.
And there's some rooms, they just, they got so much shit that's happened, reports and stuff, they just board up, and they don't.
Really?
It's just boarded up, yeah.
That's interesting.
And yeah, it's this whole like this one floor. There's so many boarded up rooms on.
That's wild.
But anyway, where that ties in though is it's right on the loop of Chicago, and H.H. Holmes, he used to pick up women in the lobby of that hotel.
That's interesting. Wow, that's crazy.
Back to his crazy
his murder castle, yeah, whatever, you know. Yeah. That's interesting that you got to do that. And speaking of ghosts and goblins and things that go bump in the night, I do want to remind everybody that in just a couple weeks from now, as you know, the Gaming Roundtable will be presenting its second year of the Spooktacular Halloween special. We're all month long, every day of the Halloween of October until 31st. I will be playing a horror game every night. And I wanted to again give credit to my
second annual.
Yeah, second. I'm giving credit to Desiree, my fiance. She's the one that came up with this idea. It was brilliant, and John here, folks, is going to sit on some of that, which is great. And I think I'm going to try to get over to his place and maybe play and stream a couple from his house. You know, just kind of some games on Xbox or something, and try to do some stuff that I can't play. Desiree, I think I'm going to try to talk her in to playing a game that, you know, and I'll help her through it or something. Maybe she can play Quarry for us, one of the games that she likes, and maybe I can talk her into that. If not, coax her into it. But I will be playing a different horror game every night. I have been buying a few things here and there. I haven't had a lot of money, so I'm looking at trying to look and see what horror games are on sale. Of course, I will be playing some new ones, and I'll be playing some old ones from last year that, in case you missed it, of course, classics like Outlast and things along that lines. There'll probably be some Dead by Daylight playing, and maybe I can get a group of us doing that, and we'll broadcast that. But the Spooktacular Halloween is coming up next month on the Gaming Roundtable, and I know I've been kind of laxed on my videos, but this is 31 videos. This is every day. I'll have the backdrop set up again. I'll be where we had it, where I normally would play the games in the bedroom. And John, again, you're welcome on any of those nights to join in, help out, you know, talk, whatever, watch. It was really fun that you participated last year, and I really appreciate that. And I think, like I said, I think
one of the more entertaining segments I think you've done. And, you know, like part of the fun part of it, I think, like just because it's consistent, right? Like it's like, and like you don't announce what the game is.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should. I think
no,
because it would be like, I wonder what tonight's game is going to be. You know?
Yeah.
So that was a fun element, and I'll